Welcome back to TrueMoors.com, a silk video series to help you learn more about choosing bed sheets, mainly choosing silk, but also talking about bed sheets in general. And I just want to make a quick brief note before we get into today's subject about I'm just going to make these a little bit faster moving and briefer because I feel I've got a few comments saying just make them shorter, more to the point, and not as much maybe flashy with different graphics. So that's what I'm going to concentrate on. And today we're going to talk about what is mommy weight and what is the right weight for you. This is really important because the marketing agencies, over a long time for bedding have trained us to believe the higher the thread count, the better the sheet. This is now why you see Egyptian cotton sheets with insanely high thread counts and even insanely high thread counts that are actually faked to be higher than they really are. It seems to be the motto that the higher the better, almost kind of like in golf if you're familiar with that. It used to be the bigger the better. But this is not true. This is really important to understand to make sure that you buy the right bed sheet for your bed. Of course, we're talking about mulberry silk here, and silk is measured in what's called a mommy weight. Technically speaking, the mommy weight is the weight in pounds of 100 yards of silk, which is 45 inches wide. So 19 mommy weight silk is 19 pounds of silk cut to those dimensions. But what does mommy weight really mean, and how does it work for you? So the basic rule of thumb is the higher the mommy weight, the more silk used in the fabric. The more silk used, and it begins to change the properties of the fabric for both good reasons and bad reasons. For our discussion here, I'm going to assume that we're talking about the charmeuse weave of silk, like we sell at TrueMoors.com. Future videos, we're going to talk about the different weaves and how they actually affect the quality and the structure and feel of the sheet. For bedding, you really don't want to sleep on anything less than 19 mommy weight silk, only because it really isn't going to last that long for you, and you kind of want to make an investment like this last a long time. Here at TrueMoors.com, we're blessed to sell 19 mommy weight, 22, and 25. So the good about going up in mommy weight. 1, you have a more luxury sheet. The simple fact of going higher in mommy weight means that you have a more luxury feel and a more luxury, and just more silk all in general. The feel is different, and we're going to talk about that, but it's pretty cool to say that you sleep on 22 or 25 mommy weight silk. It's very luxurious. Number 2, it's more durability. With more silk, you have a stronger sheet that can take more abuse. You never really want to abuse any kind of sheet, but, and kind of a side note, 19 mommy weight should last you many, many years, but again, it's more durable, so it can put up with more abuse. 3, the heavier the sheet, by touch and feel, or it's a heavier sheet by touch and feel. So the higher weights feel heavier and they're kind of more substantial, and many people enjoy this, and it's a good feel, just really kind of personal preference. This is kind of something to take into account. So kind of like the bad about going up in mommy weight, you have a crisper feel. The more silk you use, the more fabric is being used as well, which kind of makes sense that it's going to be a little bit heavier, a little bit more crisper in feel. This doesn't mean that it's hard, and I really don't want to put that impression in your mind over that silk that in the higher mommy weights isn't soft, but it's kind of all relative back to the 19 mommy weight. So it's going to be a little bit more crisper compared to 19, and it's still very soft. And again, this is kind of personal preference. That may be a feel that you like. So even though I'm saying it's kind of bad, it may be good for you. 2, it gets warmer. Silk breathes really well, but the more silk you add, the warmer the sheet's going to get. So it's really important to consider this when you're choosing your sheets. 3, it's more expensive. The more silk you use, the more money it takes to make, and that is going to be reflected in the prices. It's very expensive to have such a high mommy weight, but depending upon your needs, it could be the perfect match. So what mommy weight is really going to be good for you? Well, I've mentioned this in other videos, but it's important to go over again. Consider these factors when you're buying silk. 1, do you sleep hot or cold? For example, if you sleep really hot, I'm going to say go with 19. If you sleep really cold, go with a higher mommy weight. It could work really well. Although 19 still works great, don't get me wrong. Number 2, is the climate that you live in mostly hot or cold? So if you're living in a really cold climate, a higher mommy weight would probably work really well. If you're warmer, go with a 19. What type of feel do you most want, or do I most want, just I being you? Do you like to have a super incredibly soft sheet that drapes incredibly well, or do you want something that's a little bit more substantial and heavy? So you gotta think about that. Do I tend to go through my sheets fast? If you go through bedding really quickly, which, that's probably another video, a higher mommy weight might make sense for you. Finally, I want to mention comparing the weight to the typical thread count that you probably think about. I don't really have an exact conversion from cotton to silk, so I don't want to say you're giving an approximation that could mislead you, but consider this. Silk thread is much finer than cotton, so comparing thread counts is not really comparing anything meaningful. Even if you were to compare them, you'd also have to consider the weave of the fabric as well. So it's important to realize that silk is nothing like cotton. And I'm not saying cotton is bad, as I still enjoy sleeping in cotton bedding myself, but the feel is not even remotely close. So now you understand mommy weight, and you also know that the higher is not really going to mean it's a better sheet for you. It all depends on what you want and what you feel is going to be best for your sleep. So visit TrueMoors.com, and if you have any questions, please contact me. I would love to help you out and answer anything I can. And that's TrueMoors.com. Thanks, and I hope to talk to you soon.